I worked the front desk at a guest house in Kyoto. Last summer, this American woman checked in during a heat wave, walked straight to the window and started searching the walls. After 3 minutes of this, she turned to me and said, "Where's the thermostat?" I told her we don't have central air conditioning. She looked at me like I'd just confessed to a crime. "What do you mean you don't have AC? It's 95 degrees outside." "This is a hotel," explained. "We had fans in each room, and that many traditional buildings here use natural ventilation." She cut me off. I read that Japan is a developed country. Then she pulled out her phone, typed something, and showed me a Wikipedia article about Japan's GDP. See, third largest economy. You can afford air conditioning. My cousin manages a cafe in Copenhagen. An American couple came in during July, ordered iced lattes. And when the drinks arrived with 2 small ice cubes each, the husband flagged her down. "Excuse me, we asked for iced coffee." She confirmed they were iced. He lifted his glass. "This has barely any ice. In America, we fill the whole cup." She explained that's how they serve it here. His wife jumped in. "That's actually just bad business. You're losing money. Ice is cheaper than coffee, so you should fill it with ice and charge the same price." That's literally economics 101. My brother drives a taxi in Oslo. He picked up an American tourist who immediately cranked the AC to maximum. After 5 minutes, she asked why it wasn't getting colder. He explained it was already at full power. She said, "This is the coldest setting. My car at home can make it feel like winter in July." He told her European cars don't usually have a C that strong. She was silent for a moment, then said, "Is that why Europeans are always complaining about climate change? Because you haven't figured out air conditioning yet?" I sell appliances in Auckland. This American guy walked in asking for a refrigerator with an ice maker and water dispenser. I showed him our models, none of which had those features. He looked genuinely confused. None of them. "What do people do for ice?" I explained most people use ice trays. He physically stepped back. "Ice trays? Like manually?" I nodded. He said, "That's insane. You're telling me in 2024, people in New Zealand are manually making ice like pioneers?" Then he asked if we had a section for American appliances. When I said no, he muttered something about downgrading his travel plans. We're about to watch Americans encounter local reality and simply decide it doesn't apply to them because they read somewhere that everyone lives like they do. Each story is real, documented, and somehow getting worse. I teach at a university in Seoul. Last semester, an American exchange student addressed me by my first name during class. I politely reminded him to use Professor Kim. He said, "Oh, I'm more comfortable with first names. It's less hierarchical." Explained that in Korea, titles matter. He replied, "Yeah, but studies show that informal environments increase creativity." I actually read about this in a Harvard Business Review article. Then suggested I let the whole class call me by my first name, because it would improve learning outcomes. The other students stopped making eye contact with me for the rest of the week. My sister works at a library in Mumbai. An American woman walked in wearing shoes, which you're supposed to remove at the entrance. When staff pointed this out, she said, "I'm just browsing quickly." They explained it's a rule for everyone. She responded, "But I'm wearing new shoes. They're clean. I literally bought them yesterday, so technically they're cleaner than most people's socks." She pulled out her phone and showed them a photo of the shoes in the box. "See, brand new. Still have the tags." She tried to enter 3 more times that day, each time with a new explanation for why her specific shoes were the exception. I manage a hot spring resort in Iceland. This American couple arrived and headed straight for the bath. I stopped them and explained they needed to shower naked in the communal area first. The husband said, "We showered at the hotel this morning." I clarified that it's required before entering the spring. His wife said, "That seems excessive. We're very clean people. I actually use antibacterial soap, which is more effective than regular soap." She suggested we install private shower stalls instead. When I explained this was traditional practice, she said, "Right, but traditions should evolve. That's literally how progress works." My uncle runs a community center in Singapore. An American family signed up for a class and showed up wearing outdoor shoes inside. When asked to remove them, the father said, "These are indoor-outdoor shoes." "That's actually what they're designed for," explained. "We still require shoe removal." He responded, "But that's going to hurt my back. I have a condition where I need arch support." He was wearing running sneakers. His wife added, "Also, going barefoot spreads more germs than shoes because feet sweat." We learned that from a podiatrist. They spent 15 minutes negotiating before finally agreeing to wear the provided slippers, but they kept their socks on under them for hygiene purposes. I wait tables at a bistro in Lyon. An American man asked for his steak well done. I brought it out after 25 minutes, and he sent it back saying it was too dry. I explained well done steaks have less moisture. He said, "In America, they manage to keep it juicy." I asked how. He thought for a moment and then said, "Better beef probably, or maybe it's the grills. We have really advanced grilling technology." When I brought the check after his meal, he sat there for 40 minutes. I finally asked if everything was all right. He said, "Just waiting for you to bring the bill." I told him I had already given it to him. He replied, "I meant the final bill. After you ask if we want anything else, then coffee, then dessert, that's the system." My neighbor owns a restaurant in Buenos Aires. An American couple made a reservation for 7 p.m. and arrived exactly on time. The kitchen wasn't open yet, since most locals eat around 10 p.m. when they were told they need to wait. The husband said, "But we have a reservation. That's literally a contract." My neighbor explained that dinner service starts at 9 p.m. The wife responded, "That's not dinner time. That's bedtime. How is your restaurant even profitable if you're closed during dinner hours?" She suggested they adjust their schedule to match international standards. They ended up sitting at the bar for 2 hours, visibly annoyed, checking their watches every few minutes. I work at a cafe in Melbourne. This American woman ordered a flat white, took one sip, and brought it back. "This isn't a latte," I explained. "A flat white is different from a latte." She said they're both espresso and milk, so they're the same thing. I described the ratio and texture differences. She cut me off. "I've been drinking lattes for 20 years. This is just a small latte. You're charging me for a flat white, but you gave me less milk. That's actually false advertising." She pulled up a conversion chart on her phone, showing that a flat white should have the exact same volume as a latte. But when I pointed out the chart was from a random blog, she said expertise doesn't matter when you have data. I run a food stall in Bangkok. An American tourist ordered pad thai and immediately asked for a fork. I gave him one, along with a spoon. He looked at the spoon, confused, and asked for a knife instead. I explained that in Thailand, we typically use a spoon and fork, and the fork is used to push food onto the spoon. He said, "That's actually really inefficient. A knife and fork is the optimal utensil combination. It's based on European engineering principles from the Renaissance." He then tried to cut his noodles with the fork, gave up, and ate the entire dish with his hands while insisting it was more authentic anyway. I worked the ticket counter at a train station in Switzerland. An American man asked why his rail pass didn't include seat reservations. I explained that reservations cost extra. He said, "But I already paid for the pass. That should cover everything." I clarified that the pass covers travel, not reserved seating. He responded, "That doesn't make sense. In America, when you buy a train ticket, you get a seat. This is like selling someone a car, but making them pay extra for the steering wheel." He then asked to speak to a manager to dispute the logic of the system. When my supervisor arrived and confirmed the policy, he said, "I'm definitely writing about this on TripAdvisor. My friend manages a bus depot in Dublin. An American woman missed her bus and asked when the next one was. He told her in 45 minutes. She said, 'Can't you call the driver and have him come back?' He explained the bus was already on its route. She responded, 'But I was only 3 minutes late.' That's within the margin of error." She showed him her phone's clock and his wall clock, which differed by 2 minutes, and argued that, technically, at the wall clock she wasn't late at all. She then asked if they could radio the driver to wait at the next stop. When he said no, she suggested they implement a system where buses wait 5 extra minutes for customer convenience. I'm a tour guide in Reykjavik, An American couple asked why we couldn't drive to see the northern lights. I explained we don't control where or when they appear. The husband said, "But you're a tour company. That's your job." I clarified that we drive to areas with the best visibility, but there's no guarantee. His wife jumped in. "We paid $200 for this tour. That's a lot of money. If we don't see them, we should get a refund." I explained the refund policy, which doesn't cover natural phenomena. She said, "That's actually a scam. In America, if you pay for something and don't get it, that's called theft." They left a 1-star review saying we refused to provide the service we advertised. I teach English in Tokyo. An American student insisted on correcting my British spelling. When I wrote color on the board, he said, "You spelled that wrong." I explained it's the British spelling. He responded, "But American English is what most people use globally, so that's technically the standard now." I told him both spellings are correct. He said, "Right, but one is more correct." That's just logic. He then pulled up a graph showing internet usage by country and argued that since Americans make up the largest English-speaking online population, American English should be considered the default. He started spelling everything the American way in his assignments and marked his own papers with corrections to my comments. My cousin works at a department store in Stockholm. An American woman asked where the ice machine was. He told her they don't have one. She looked at him for a full 5 seconds and then said, "How do you live?" He suggested she could ask a cafe for ice. She responded, "I shouldn't have to ask. Ice should just be available. That's basic infrastructure." She walked away shaking her head, muttering something about first world countries. Later, she came back with a bag of ice she'd bought from a grocery store and asked if she could use their freezer to store it during her shopping trip. When he explained that wasn't possible, she said, "This is why Europe is losing its competitive edge." Look, we're not saying Americans are bad travelers. We're saying they've created a reality at home that's so specific, so engineered for comfort, that when they leave and find the rest of the world doing things differently, they assume the world is broken. Ice and drinks isn't a human right. Air conditioning isn't evolution. Your way of doing things isn't the result of superior logic. It's just your way. And the wildest part? When you tell them this, they'll argue that you're wrong about your own country.